Remember this. It sounds counterintuitive. It sounds dualistic. It kind of is dualistic, actually. That's why it sounds dualistic. It is dualistic. We separate the subject from the object, the formless subject, that which you are, the self. We separate it from the object, that which is visible and seen, has limitation and form. And we take ourselves to be the subject, that pure subject. We take the body, the mind, and the world to be objects. The subject, we say that's I, that's me, that's the self. The objects, we say that's not self, that's not me, that's Maya, that's illusion. I never change, the Maya and the objects always change, and we attend to the subject. You can only do that if you have a concept of the subject. Well, there are other ways. You can intuitively, this happens as well without any concepts. But for the path of jnana, the knowledge, the path of jnana yoga, we consciously understand the concepts and we attend to the subject, because that is what removes duality. That is what removes suffering. That is what removes ignorance. And if you don't do that on the path of knowledge, then ignorance carries on. That's the problem. If you don't, that's why all the teachings, all the traditional teachings do this to create this duality. It's important. So if you're using concepts in a different way, that's no problem, but it won't work on the path of knowledge, jnana. Jnana meaning knowledge. And that can be a problem. So you have to have a good understanding of what is meant by the self. Yes, all is one. Yes, you can say conceptually or theoretically, all is one. But you won't really know that unless you attend to the self as the subject, which is why Ramana and all the traditional sages of Advaita, non-dual, Advaita Vedanta, recommend turning towards the subject, the knower, the seer, not the seen.
How do we tell the difference? How do we distinctly know the difference between object and subject?
Well, I use one or two very simple definitions. An object is anything that arises in your consciousness, or anything you perceive. That's two definitions I've given you there. One is an object is anything that rises up in your consciousness. Another definition is anything that's perceived. So that's the body, the mind, and the world. The BMW, body, mind, world. And the mind includes thoughts, feelings, imaginings, sensations, all those, any state of consciousness, any sort of flashing lights or orbs or visual things you're seeing, all your emotions, that's all included in the mind. This is all perceived. This all appears in your consciousness. So anything that appears in the consciousness is the seen. The seen is an object. That which sees, that which you are, is the subject. There appear to be a multitude of different objects of different shapes and sizes with different attributes. The subject is one. It's formless. It has no attributes in the sense it doesn't have color, shape, size.
So the subject is absolute.
Well, what we don't know that. Yes, the subject is absolute, but we don't know that. We just know that if you're inquiring and you're ignorant, all you know is that you can see objects and you are the subject. And the teaching is strange teaching, because almost all teachings are about objects. 99.99% of teachings are all about objects. Watch your breathing, watch your thoughts, do this with your body, do that with your body, do this with words, do that with words, use concepts like this, use concepts like that, sing about this, chant about that, read this, read that. That's all objects. This satsang also, objects. You're listening, your attention is turned towards objects. But the true teaching says, and this is the value of this satsang, essentially. The true teaching is a strange teaching. It says, you are actually divine. You are actually the formless, the infinite. And you can discover this yourself. How? Well, if you place attention and attend to the subject just seems to be a limited subject. But when you place attention to it, it reveals itself as the infinite, the absolute, that which you are. And it ends suffering and duality. So it seems like a dualistic teaching, because in a way it is, but this is the teaching that leads to non-dual vision. Jnana drishti. Drishti means vision or sight. Jnana means knowledge or wisdom. Jnana drishti. It's another word for the self. Jnana drishti. Vedanta is incredibly simple. Incredibly simple. It says everything you see is Maya, is the seeing. Thank you, Arts. Arts has written it down in the chat there. Everything that you see is the seeing. That's the drishya. That's the object. And that which you are is the seer, the subject, the Atman. And what you are is actually God, Brahman. Yeah? Everyone knows that they exist. So everyone knows the Atman, but no one realizes, not no one, but generally speaking, people don't realize that that self, which they are, is actually divine, is actually God, Brahman. So Vedanta says you are that. That means the divine, the Brahman. You are Brahman. All you have to do is take your attention away from objects and place your attention on the subject, and you will discover what you are. If you do this earnestly, with the intent to discover what you are.